Today we're going to address some of the concerns you might have when it comes to enrolling your child in an intensive therapy program. So we often hear, how much therapy does my child really need? Or my child's only 5, or my child's only 2. Is 30 hours a week of therapy too much for them? So let's hear from a few of our autism moms, and they go through their experience of what it was like to have their child enrolled in an intensive therapy program.
For Tristan, having started therapy at such an early age, at 3, it's just become a part of his life, a part of his, certain people have busy lifestyles because they have siblings in lots of sports and they're always traveling. I have an only child, and we started with early intervention, and so that would have been speech, OT, PT, and then we added ABA, so we had 4 different therapists. I think it was 6 days a week at our house. But see, in those times, I needed them there because they were showing, when they were doing what they were doing with Tristan, it kind of showed me how I could follow that on afterwards.
It's going to be more effective.
How would
it's
you
going to be
know?
More effective if
Exactly.
You're there watching
I'm
it.
not a therapist. So for me, just having the different therapists coming with their different disciplines, and I saw how they all meshed together, and I kind of felt like ABA was the string that brought everything together and moved that train along. Like, it took the discipline and then it just moved it along a lot faster.
Yep.
So yes, we had a lot of therapists in our house, but I think he's so used to it that it's not stressful for him. He was excited to see his therapist because he was comfortable and he was achieving goals, so he was getting that recognition that, wow, great job. I was able to stack those bricks tactile. I didn't want to touch them when we try to play, and we're like, here. Well, when the therapist came, with her bag of tricks, all of a sudden he's playing with those bricks and, some of the things that we couldn't get him to do.
Well, I think also something to think about, like, I have a lot of people that call me and say, oh, it's a lot for a 3-year-old. Well, it is a lot for, it is. It's a lot for anybody, except if you're with the right company, and all ABA approaches are not the same, right? So it should be fun. They should look forward to therapists. They should be like, yeah, therapist is coming, let's go. You should
and
not
that's exactly my experience.
You might have some aversion in the beginning because it's a change, but 2 months in, they should be loving it.
Well, it's play-based.
Yes,
it's play-based learning. It's at the child's pace. We're not trying to run ahead, because in order to ingrain that discipline that we're trying to, if we try and rush it too much, well, it's going to overwhelm them, and it's at their pace. So yeah, absolutely.
And I also think it's important to realize that kids with autism don't develop the same way as neurotypical kids do, right? Like, I have people say, oh, but I just want my child to have a relaxing summer, the kinds you and I used to have. We go outside and play, we take trips to the zoo.
I felt that too, though. Andy, I remember feeling that. I remember thinking early days that I didn't understand it.
Right, and I said to this mom that said this to me, yeah, I get it, right? Like,
who doesn't?
I want to have that too, but neurotypical kids, if I take my 4 neurotypical kids to the park when they were the ages of, in the 6, 7 years old, they are going to learn. They're going to look around, learn to play. Like how this guy is learning to play, they're going to learn. They're going to learn that naturally. Kids with autism don't learn that. They need to be taught to do that. So our whole goal is get it intense when they're young, get it so they can actually go use those skills at the playground, at the children's museum, at the zoo,
at school,
like, so that's
social groups.
So
all
they
of that,
don't learn that way, and so we need to hit them with intensive therapies so they can actually do that someday.
Well, it's kind of like when if somebody thinks that it's too much. You have to look at your family lifestyle. You have to look at what's going to work. You have to think to yourself, I've put this time aside to, let's say you have a daughter that's in dance and they have a recital or they have a show. You are going backwards and forwards. You're doing that. It is demanding, but you're doing it because you're bought into it. So I think part of it is, as a parent, early days when I was told this much therapy, I remember thinking, well, that's a lot of, a lot of people in my house, a lot of transitions, a lot of things. How's he going to cope? We're a pretty quiet household, just the 3 of us. Well, and then you add the dogs and it's not quiet. But, but then I found that, as they started coming and I started seeing that if I waited a whole week until I had my 1 hour of speech again, well, we were already starting to lose some of the things that we'd been working. So we were going back to it, and then we'd move on again, and we were making great gains. But then when we started adding additional speech outside of early intervention, and then the ABA came into place, it was kind of like all of a sudden I started seeing we could barely keep up with our goals that were being met.
He gets excited when the therapist pulls up. He knows every single one of their cars, as he calls them, a beep. So he sees their beeps when they pull up, and he knows who's coming. Or times when he's like anxious, all we have to do is tell him like, Keegan's coming, who's his RBT, and he gets so excited he'll repeat, Keegan's coming, and then he goes upstairs to look at the window because he knows when he sees Keegan's beep.
And
then
that
it's
know
there.
they're like your therapy is top notch because
Right.
the kids are enjoying
Right.
looking forward. When our therapist walks in the door, Brooke grabs their hand and like, let's go.
I have experience with turnover in ABA. Do you?
Yeah.
Yeah,
for
not shocking,
sure,
right?
For sure, yes.
Not shocking.
We've had to figure it out.
Yeah, I have worked in healthcare for a solid decade, and I think any time that someone's job is to feed someone else's bucket, so put all that goodness and that care in someone else's bucket, is just high turnover. Because at the end of the day, you get a little burnout, right? It's hard to be the giver all day long. We've experienced turnover in RBTs. We have. We recently just got a new BCBA because the lady that was doing her practicum passed her board, and now she's our new BCBA. So it's exciting that she's always been on our team, but now she's driving our ship. We've had turnovers in RBTs, and as much as it's hard, it's challenging, and we're sad to see those people go because they are in your house. They become almost like a part of your family after a while. You know, some of these people we've known 6-7 months, and they're there 2-3 times a week. You feel like you've put a lot into that relationship, a lot into that friendship.
You have.
You have, you want to make sure that they feel warm and comforted, and when they're in your home. But then we're also just like a real family that I'm like, we're a lot, so welcome to our house. So just over the summer, because of the changes with school, we lost one of the RBTs who I loved personally. I just thought she was so great. We lost Sam. But it was because school wasn't reopening, and her husband had to have a conversation of who's going to stay home with the kids, and she had to make that decision to resign and stay home with the kids. But
Because they have their personal
because
lives.
they have their personal lives, they're people too, right? They're people that do a job. So things change in the world. During COVID, we lost an RBT because they just didn't want to come to people's homes anymore. And so we got a new RBT too. So now we have 2 new RBTs. We have 4 on our team. But I will tell you, Nico has done so wonderfully with that change of individuals. I don't think he understands what bye is, or that like the last session, we had one lovely RBT bring bubbles, and they did bubbles on the last day. So I think sometimes it's harder on those RBTs to leave your kids than it is for your kids not to see that RBT anymore. But what's been really great for Nico too is to learn new people and have new people navigate this experience with him, because as he has gone into school, he's in preschool, he's going to be in kindergarten next year, those people are going to continue to change. It's not the same teacher you have from pre-K to college, right? Like, it's different people in and out of your lives all the time. So I think that's one of the great things about it. Not that we want people to leave by any means. We don't. We like that consistency, but we have a couple consistent people there. But introducing new people to him has helped him learn that not everyone can be the same all the time.
Yeah. No, I learned over the years, instead of, oh my gosh, we can't not do that because we can't upset Brooke, or she's going to have a hard time adapting, or it's going to take her a really long time. But it was really kind of important to put that in her world every once in a while. Not that it was damaging, but in a way that change is actually important, because over the years, the world isn't always going to adapt to her. I learned that. And so she needs to adapt to the world and whatever that changing environment brings her. And that's a skill in itself that we learned.
Yes.
Part of, too, the turnover, I realized that I was also contributing to the turnover. And that was from, hey, BCBA, it's June, so I would like Brooke to participate in a NISRA program. So I need to change her schedule.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize the impact that would have on the company.
Yeah.
Like, okay, so now Mary isn't going to work with Brooke for 10 hours or 10 hours less a week. So what are we going to do with Mary? And that is just a hard thing that is always a juggle
Yep.
in scheduling.
Yeah.
And so our consistency was important, but we also want our kids to participate in extracurriculars. So I think it's a give and take with the turnover thing.
Yeah.
You have to expect it to a little bit. Of course, if you have a company, you can't keep somebody more than 2 months or something like that. Maybe is a bit extreme.
Yeah.
But it is just part of the.
It's part of the
of it.
beast, and I think you can compare it to food. Like, if you didn't try a new food, you'd never know it was your favorite. And so when new people come
Oh,
in,
good
then you
one.
get an opportunity to be like, you were so amazing, and I wish we would have had you this whole time, because there are a bucket of people
Yes.
due to changes in schedule. I mean, we've gone through 3 changes in school schedule in a month and a half.
Yep.
So we've had to juggle. So we never know how great those people that are like
you
in that
didn't allow
bucket,
it.
if we didn't even try it or we didn't allow it, if we wanted to stay with the same ones all the time.
Good point, because
Yeah.
I remember going, oh, I don't know about this person, and then it was like, oh my gosh, she's so much better. than
She's
the
so
last one.
great.